Hi everyone, I'm Naomi Parness, former reporter for CTV News and now the co-founder of KPW Communications. We're here at Partei Chaim and I'm joined by Paul Zammit. We're going to talk about transforming this cemetery and your role in transforming it. But I want to just let you know, in case you don't know who Paul Zammit is a graduate of the University of Guelph and is a professor of horticulture at Niagara College. Prior to joining the faculty, Paul held the position of the Director of Horticulture at the Toronto Botanical Garden for 10 years. Before that, he spent 20 years managing the perennial department at a large independent garden center in Toronto. He is passionate and energetic. He's a lover of nature and he's been delivering presentations across Canada, throughout the US and internationally in countries such as Switzerland, Germany, Bermuda, and South Africa for over 25 years. So Paul, talk to us about why you're here, your role in the transformation of Partei Chaim.
Well, I think I met a kindred spirit in Annette. She discovered and I found in me my passion for plants, my passion for bringing spaces alive, and she has that same spirit. And there's such incredible potential here, so it was kind of that marriage to bring the opportunity of the two spaces together and the two approaches. Really, my goal with the whole space is just to show people the opportunity that exists in these green spaces as we face a lot of issues globally, etc., of lack of biodiversity, lack of green spaces. We need to look at any spaces, and I think cemeteries are a key space for many reasons.
And this is your first time working on a project like this in a cemetery.
For a cemetery of this size, yes, it absolutely is. I've been doing a lot of consulting for many years, but this is a great big huge canvas.
We had a discussion prior to this so that I could find out more about the project, and you told me that you want the cemetery to be a welcoming place. You want it to be a place where people feel at peace. Talk about how you envision this looking.
Well, certainly, I think, people are coming here to celebrate their loved ones, and, they're coming here with a mindset. What I also see about the space is when they come here, not only will they celebrate that, but they'll celebrate all the other life that exists here. And I think by carefully selecting the plant palette that, is my passion, you can invite a lot of guests here. And I don't mean other individuals. What I mean is a lot of wildlife, a lot of biodiversity.
So what are the visions for this ground? I mean, you've talked about Partei Shalom and how different it looks from this.
Yes.
This is very flat. You mentioned it being a former farmer's field. Very windy.
Yes.
we happen to be here on a very...
That's one of the main challenges. And it is. It's very, very flat, very open. And our goal is when you drive in, you don't see that vastness. So we're looking at creating islands of vegetations to break up the view, not only as you're driving in, but also once you're in the cemetery when you turn back, so that you won't see the neighborhoods in the area. It just will help to create that enclosed space. And there's many opportunities. I mentioned islands. There's some beautiful natural water features here that we will enhance and build on those spaces. There's some existing spaces as well, berms that will enhance those spaces. So incredible, many different areas that offer those opportunities.
You talked about losing your father, and you said it changed your perspective of the cemetery.
I still talk to my dad. I still go visit him. And he was, even at a very young age, he always told me, you gotta love what you do. And I go talk to him about that because I feel so fortunate to have found this passion for horticulture that I can still do after all these years. And what I find is when I go there, it's celebrating him. And it's not just seeing him, it's seeing little things that can happen. And the cemetery he's in is quite different as well. I wish they were as keen to make some of the changes that we've discussed happen here. Because I think when people see the opportunity of using these spaces for so much more than just reflecting on their loved ones, and I don't want to take away from that by any means, but I just think it's far beyond that.
Well, and when they do reflect on their loved ones, as you mentioned, you want it to be an experience for them.
Very, very positive and celebrate so many things. It can be so uplifting.
And you said this could act as a model for other cemeteries.
Absolutely. I mean, I wish that I could actually bring my students here. It's such a distance away from us from Niagara, but I think it's such a teaching tool. I think we all have the opportunity within our home gardens, no matter how large or small they are. But in this case here, to see such a big space and to be able to give that message, think of all of the cemeteries across North America, all over the world. I believe it's estimated that there's 92 or 93 million acres of turf. That's a lot of turf. Doesn't matter how many million exactly, but if we could start to use that turf instead of just mowing it to support biodiversity, I think when you come into a space and you know that that's happening and your loved one is here, I just think it will add so much more. And I think it's a message not only for us, but also for future generations, the power and the potential of plants and spaces.
So maybe you can show us some of the things that will change here.
Certainly, there's a lot of areas that are existing right now that we could hope to continue to enhance them, and through careful selection of plant material, and that's really been one of our big challenges, is because of the conditions, both the soil and the wind, really making sure that we do our homework to select the proper plant material that is suitable for this location. We are looking to work with a lot of native plants as well, specifically to help to bring in pollinators, and really our goal is to try and create a garden that is as sustainable as possible and that works with the natural environment that we've got here. And we can have a look over here.
Are you going to be planting a lot of trees?
There will be a lot of trees, but also large shrubs. So it's not Naomi, what we don't want is, we don't want just all these columns. We want to make sure that there's islands of multi-stem shrubs, wide range of perennials, big canopy, so that when you are looking at it, it's not all just clouds of vegetation, but rather layers of it. And that's really important from a sustainability standpoint, but also for creating habitat. Again, it's not just about the flowers, it's about the diversity that you can create, bringing in the wildlife, but also seasons of interest. These look quite lovely in the middle of winter with the seed heads on them, and again, being able to support plant material. So carefully selecting plant material that's going to provide those layers. Months after we've had the flowers on the iris here, you get the wonderful seed heads against the panicums, which are just beginning to change their color. So they're developing their golden color. This is an example. I was talking with the landscapers. They were saying, should we cut it down? I'm like, no, do not cut it down, because this is yet another season of interest. Then you'll get things like the birch filling in, you'll get the 9-barks filling in. So literally, as you're coming, you will not be able to see out and beyond. And it'll also help to hopefully soften the sound as well of the traffic. That's why we really want to extensively plant all along the frontage on both sides, and on both sides of the fence as well.
You're planning on transforming the entrance?
Significantly. The key is when you're coming, it's going to be very inviting, but you're not necessarily going to be able to see in. And then once you get inside, Naomi, and you turn around, the ideal is that you're not seeing out as well. It's not that we want to forget about that they're there, but this becomes a very special place. We will also be looking very closely at adding additional layers. So where there's existing plant material, so in between the grasses, come the spring, they're sometimes a bit stubborn to emerge. So we've ordered thousands of bulbs, and over the next few years we will be planting several thousand bulbs that will go in between all the grasses. So very early there will be those drifts of color of crocus and daffodils and alliums with beautiful seed heads. Again, many of these also helping to support pollinators, bees, butterflies, etc. And there's just some samples here and to me, planting bulbs is just like planting that promise of spring, because you know what's going to happen. This is going to be a huge globe with wonderful purple flowers. Doesn't look like a lot right now, but I just think it's so super exciting. There will be the tall components, so there's some more taller trees going here, but this gray dogwood here, it's only not going to be too much larger, so it would be kind of that mid layer. And then the key is to get material underneath it. This is where some of the spring flowering bulbs will do quite well, in between all the ornamental grasses as well. Just creating layers. And what's important about this dogwood here, I love the color, but its flowers help to support a lot of bees, and then the fruit is very significant for bird populations. And if you stay here and watch, it's amazing the bird diversity. So inviting those guests into the garden, I think, is really, really key. And I think this would be a good teaching tool. Who knows, eventually leading tours here to show the power and the potential of this space, but just to show what you can attract to this space. And then on the berm here, some of the things that we're talking about, you can see some oaks that are being planted, but also incorporating things like just giant drifts of sumac for incredible color. Just imagine this glory of burgundy and orange, and then with these stout stems all through the winter. I love the way sumac looks in the winter. And then underneath that, coming in with some of the spring ephemerals. I emphasize that it's taken us time because we really need to know the site. We really need to know the conditions. And it's it's really a wrong approach just to plant and see what happens. So we're seeing things that have done very, very well, and just working on that. And doing a lot of hunting, which is what I love to do, hunting for different type of plant material, and working with a lot of our amazing, amazing Southern Ontario growers.
Thank you so much for this walkthrough. It'll be pretty incredible to see how this space transforms.
Can you feel the potential? I just think there's so much incredible potential here. It's going to take us some time, but it will happen.
Thank you. Thanks again for today, and thank you everyone for watching.